The 2025 season is days away from kicking off, and that means a new era of Mountaineer football, an old era returning, the Rich Rodriguez era returning, now Rich Rodriguez 2.0 for West Virginia. And on this episode here of Mountaineer Report on West Virginia Sports Now, I am Mike Asti, and I am going to be joined by somebody that I spoke to months ago, and that was on the heels of being announced as a member of the 2025 College Football Hall of Fame class. He is a Mountaineer legend. He is a WVU sports legend. He is a former star under Rich Rodriguez, so he knows what Rich Rodriguez was like then and what he's heard Rich Rodriguez is like now, and that is Steve Slaton. So I have a media preview coming out. Always includes Super Steve in that to get his prediction on the upcoming season. Now going to have him on the show to talk about it and expand on it a bit more and kind of check in. It's been a minute. Talked to him on the phone, though, so happy now to bring it to you guys. So there he is. There he is, Steve Slaton, College Football Hall of Famer now, Super Steve. Steve, man, how's it been? I just talked to you, but for the people, how have you been?
Oh, it's been good, man. It's been a beautiful year to end it off on the right note, to be in the College Football Hall of Fame and going back to West Virginia in November. I'm excited.
I think the fans are excited as well. 20th anniversary of that Sugar Bowl team. You, of course, the deserving College Football Hall of Famer. You get there. So what's old is new. Your teammate, Pat White, is now a member of the coaching staff. But it's a whole different cast of characters, as we talked on the phone. This is a whole new team, almost 80 new players from last year's West Virginia team, 30 plus 40 new players from even the spring of this year. It's pretty insane and probably confusing for fans to even cover, but they are about to kick off the season nonetheless. So before we fully get your record prediction and what you have right now, what's your mindset going into this year, just from what you've heard, what you know is going on? I know you're close and talked to Jaheim White a lot. You mentioned and kind of broke some news when you talked to me on the Hall of Fame show that got you into the Hall of Fame about how he did tell you that he almost left and Chad Scott was almost the reason why, but you helped kind of convince him to stay. But what's the vibe check for Steve Slaton right now for this year's team before they kick off?
Right now, I am super excited just because, one of the big reasons Rich Rod being back, but I hope that with the small sample size of him being there, that everybody gets to buy into the program of what he's trying to do. So I feel, last note is a sour note that he left West Virginia, but I feel like now it's a true understanding because, we know the Neil Brown era, how people were perceived him to where they weren't really backing him as much. And
it was toxic. Yeah.
It was, it's different. I'm not going to talk bad about nobody, but I feel like with Rich Rod is like, he's going to understand, like, since he's been here, like now, like, our fans are going to be on him, and it's like winning is a must.
Yeah, it's a must. It's a requirement. He does not have the luxury necessarily that we talked about of opening up this 10-year 3-8 like he did in 2001. And the cupboard was bare then, and he didn't have the transfer portal. He couldn't scrap a team and bring in all new guys and try to make sure they're hard edge before you guys came to the Morgantown. He could do that this year, and he thinks he did it. So we'll see if it actually works. Steve Slaton here joining me on Mountaineer Report, brought to you by West Virginia Sports Now and available everywhere you get your podcasts and even on our YouTube channel. So you're excited because Rich Rod's back, and I do think even the Rich Rod haters who maybe aren't over almost 2 decades ago, it's a long time now, you got to get over it, guys, but even those who are not over it, there's an intrigue there. Everyone's excited, at least, even nationally. People are just wondering and curious and kind of intrigued by this year's team more so than maybe even coming into last year, and coming into last year was off of the best year under Neil Brown. But do you think it's going to work in terms of the style, Rich Rod's mentality, his coaching mentality, and that system in particular? Do you think that's going to work in the Big 12? We've gone through spring, we've gone through fall camp. I know you've talked to Pat and others. Do you think this generation player is going to really buy in when we get to the games? They can buy in during camp, but are they going to buy in during the games? And then separately, do you think that system works in today's college football?
I would say I hope they do. I think to where this type of physicality, this type of wherewithal, this type of um, work ethic I think is missing in college football because you have the portal. Kids can leave if
Yeah.
they didn't play the game one. You know, like I said, I don't want to say back in my day, but I'll say back in my day is that you knew that if you made the decision, you're gonna have to sit and wait.
Yeah.
Now these kids want instant gratification. So I feel like if they can buy into the system to where, hey, we're working hard, we want to outwork everybody else, and that's most important. And back in the day was hold the rope. If we can hold the rope for each other and be accountable, that'll be a big difference. I don't think a lot of kids are seeing that. I mean, I'm not a college analyst. I don't
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
to kids, but it seems like kids are jumping ship because they didn't get a chance to get their way.
Yeah. Well, you did mention you talked to Jaheim White. Obviously, the team is going to go as far as Jaheim takes them, really. And this is public news that you did talk to him when he was contemplating potentially leaving and helped kind of convince him to stay. You told him you could unlock the real Jaheim White and maybe get yourself the next level in the Rich Rod system, and that definitely could be true. But even Jaheim, he was thinking about maybe leaving because he lost the coach. Players go to schools for coaches, now for the money. They don't go because they grew up a West Virginia fan for many, many years. That's very, very rare. They're not going to stay around a program if they don't like the coaching staff, if they don't think it's working for them, or if the money is not right. No matter the situation, either we've seen local kids and natives even depart
Yeah,
because they didn't like the situation. So loyalty is not what it was. That's just the case now. But it'll be interesting what Rich Rod retains after 1 year of this and how this season goes, and then how the next off season looks for sure. Steve Slaton here joining me on Mountaineer Report. We are previewing the 2025 season. Anyone who will get to any game, Steve is going to be at the Colorado game to honor that Sugar Bowl team and honor his Hall of Fame induction. So you'll be able to talk to him there, maybe check in with him there, maybe see him around town. He's going to be there a few days. And also, if you want to hear, this is a current show now, what's going on with this year's team and this year's Rich Rod's group. But if you want to hear about Rich Rod of the past, what it was like dealing with Rich Rod of the past, and Steve Slaton's story from the past that got him to the College Football Hall of Fame, that is also available everywhere you get your podcasts throughout this network here of West Virginia Sports Now. And I believe I even put that up on my Mic Drop Show channel of my personal show and all the channels for that as well. So that was a fantastic talk. I will brush my shoulders off that I had the first one with Steve after that induction. But that's all there. This will be about the current group as well. What have you heard that you can give us? I know you told me some off the off the record stuff on the phone. You don't have to give here, but just we talked to Pat White, talked to others, talked to Rasheed Marshall. They're there every day. Noah Devine's there every day about what you've heard is going on through the offseason maybe fans aren't aware of, and kind of help gauge your prediction for this season. Like, anything you can give us from any of those conversations about what's going on, because I'm sure the fans realize that Pat White may tell you some things
yeah.
that maybe he
So
wouldn't put out there publicly. Anything you can give us?
yeah, so I feel like the biggest thing is to where they're getting there, to where I feel like this is a system to where it is in you the longer you're in it. So
Okay.
guys are only getting the small sample size of spring ball, fall ball, of what this program is and what this philosophy is. So it's like they're getting there. It's not fully developed. So I feel like when we talk about our prediction, that's why it is where it is. To where
Yeah.
this is something truly new to these guys, from transferring from out of school, being there, being in different areas. So yeah, no, it's looking on the bright side, but it's not optimal yet, just yet. If,
Yeah.
if I was saying.
Yeah, that makes sense. And talking with Rich Rod during fall camp, he talked to the media every single day, basically, except for Sunday. That's the only day of rest for Rich Rod. That it seemed like a roller coaster ride. Some days he was seemingly satisfied. They took a step, and some days he thought he was going to be happy going into the day, and then would leave the day displeasured on how things would go and not satisfied at all. And there was the viral clip of him yelling, not only even at players, but at coaches and at staff members because something didn't go right during practice. And that's just the Rich Rod way. Everyone's bought it and everyone's fine with it. But it kind of was that roller coaster ride, certainly from spring and definitely even fall camp. Have there been any, Jaheim included, but have there been any players that have reached out and tried to talk to you and get any advice from you? Everyone knows you've talked to Jaheim. Have there been any other players that you've talked to at any point, whether they were asking you, hey, what it's like under Rich Rod before they became a Mountaineer, or now that they're on the team?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I feel like with Jaheim, I reached out to him just because I do like his game, and
Yeah.
said before with Chad Scott leaving, he was contemplating leaving. I just felt like, you know, for what my career, I'm a personal example of what being a Rich Rod system can do for you. To where it's like,
Yeah.
give it a chance to where, if you're going to be the guy, you're going to be the guy. You're going to get the ball. It's not going to be a limitation of touches for you. If
Yeah.
if you're an athlete that you're supposed to be, they'll find different ways to get you the ball. But no, I mean, my door will always be open to any guy part of the Mountaineer process or on the team or ex-Mountaineer, whatever. But just to have conversations
Yeah.
about it, because I mean, like I said, it's been 20 years. Is that
Yeah.
I think of it differently, and I can see it. Especially being a father now of almost college kids, is that you get in what you put out.
Yeah.
What you put in is what you're gonna get out of it, and I feel like this is, I mean, Coach Rod's way. It is tough, but it's probably going to be one of the toughest things you do in your life. To where if you get out of this, you'll be more than fine.
I would definitely imagine here again, Steve Slaton here, Mountaineer Report, Mike Asti, as we're talking the upcoming Mountaineer season. Again, a past show with Steve where we talked all through his journey from his humble beginnings as maybe a doubted recruit to his situation with James Franklin back in Maryland when the scholarship was pulled and his thoughts on James Franklin still today, to his West Virginia career, to the NFL, to the College Football Hall of Fame. That is on an archived episode, and that was a great conversation with Steve months ago back in the winter. Now, as far as, again, back to the Rich Rod offense, it's going to be a little different now, at least from what he tells us, from what it was. It's still obviously going to be a run-first offense, going to rely on Jaheim White on the ground, etc. But maybe more use of the tight ends. It's going to be different. He's adapted. It's just not going to be the same. We're going to really see what it'll be like when games get underway, because he didn't let us, even in media, watch practice too often, only a few times. So
Yeah,
there's not too much to analyze off of what our eyes have told us so far. But it's still going to be unique to the Big 12. There are some veteran quarterbacks in the Big 12, but they're not, and some of them are mobile for sure. Eli Holstein at Pitt is even mobile out of conference, but they're not necessarily like what Rich Rod wants to do, or certainly not what he did when you were there. Is that an offense and a style that maybe could catch people off guard, and that could allow them, especially early in the season, to maybe that is how they can surprise people? Or is this now different than it was 20 years ago? Because Rich Rod's talked about this, that so many people have done that offense since Rich Rod. It's been copied off of him, from Oregon to the Atlanta Falcons and the NFL to now people doing it today, where almost everyone's a dual threat quarterback. That may not be as much the case today as it could have been. That people know what the spread offense is like now.
yeah. Well, I think with the spread offense and the evolution of it is
Yeah.
getting your players in space. That's the main part, and to where I don't think that's ever going to die in a part of game. I think that's why we see smaller guys making it to the league, the NFL, more position players or just fast guys or just athletes. So I feel like in the game of football, the way the contact is and how it's changed and the rules of
Yeah.
head hunting and things like that, I think it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. To where, I mean, you want your playmakers in space, and the further we get them away from the interior linemen and the linebackers and get them one on one, that's that's where the money, that's where the magic happens. That's
And
the
that's
magic.
where the money happens. That's where the
The
money's
money
made today
happens.
as well. Yeah.
So I think to where in the Big 12, especially with the movement of with Oklahoma, Texas moving out now, I think to where this style of play has evolved so much. You think about it, 20 years ago or over 20 years ago, this started, and it's still having more prominence now. So no, I think to where, like I said, getting your playmakers in space away from the big guys, the slower guys. Even though now the big guys are fast too, but no, I don't. I
Yeah.
think the system in the Big 12. I think this is going to be the start of an evolution of the Big 12.
Yeah, and that is the maybe hope for the program, that what Rich Rod is doing, what he's still doing, is still going to be unique in today's Big 12, even though there are a lot more dual threat quarterbacks today, and there have been the last 2 decades, than when Rich Rod first started doing it, and he was having success even with you and Pat White at West Virginia during the first tenure. You did mention maybe a bigger guy that still could be fast today. Well, there was a bigger guy who was fast back in the day with you and Owen Smith, but that fullback position has kind of gone away. And Rich Rod talked about this a little bit. Tight end coach Michael Nicewander talked about this a little bit. I wrote about this weeks ago. Do you think there's room, or Rich Rod could be the guy to bring that fullback position back? And what could that do in today's football from when you're watching the game today? Because that role was very important to you and very important to the offense. Maybe also speak on how important that role was, but that doesn't really exist today. We have not seen an Owen Smith role in a while, and who knows if we will again.
I think it's going to be more of a hybrid of a tight end situation, moving the tight end, like I said, look at Travis Kelsey,
Yeah.
that type of mode to where he can be a receiver, extended and blocking in, but going into the eye to where it's third and short, fourth and that. But I don't think the fullback position is really going to be brought back as much because they are, Owen was a hybrid type of tight end, but because he could catch, but he didn't do much route running outside of the backfield. But I think to where that mold is going to have, and to be, you have a tight end come in third and short, doing things like that, but they're going to be able to have to catch.
Yeah.
That's going to be the trade off. You have to block sometimes, break a few face masks, mostly will keep you
Yeah.
out of the thick of things, but only in certain situations we're bringing back. But yeah, I think to where just the way the game's elevated, I don't think a bruiser back there is going to work. You could take it back to with 85 Bears
Yeah.
and bring Perry, bring a D tackle to run it to go block. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see it being a full time position because yeah, I feel like the hybrid side is going to be
Yeah.
more other things.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it sounded like from talking with Michael Nicewander. But he did say if someone's a bad SOB, they're going to find a way to get him in the game. And Owen Smith obviously was a bad SOB. You mentioned breaking face masks. He was all about that. Some iconic clips of him doing so that people can still find. And it also seemed like, I mean, you were in it, but it seemed like even then that having a fullback like that could take carries away from you, maybe give you a break or two, allow you to catch your breath, and have to be such a difficult tackle. That's why he could break it occasionally, because he was
Mhm.
so hard to bring down that then the people that were just trying to tackle him that had to deal with that then are trying to tackle you in the next play. They're already exhausted from it. So all of that trickled down to kind of help you out a little bit, but that exact role probably won't be there. It'll be really interesting what the tight end position looks like under Rich Rod. He's teased using it more as a pass catcher, done it a little bit more at Jack State than he did before, where it was really just exclusively a blocker in your offense, and obviously Owen Smith as the fullback. So we will see what all of that looks like once these games get underway and the season gets underway. And before I have you give your record prediction here and your full on thoughts here of what you think this team will do, I do also want to ask you about something that Rich Rod has teased and brought up and could be a little different about this offense this year, at least. Who knows about the whole second tenure? And that's it could be a 2 quarterback system. Now, obviously, Pat White didn't get in there until midway through that 2005 season. He didn't start that year initially. Adam Benaric was the starter. You guys were winning, and then he eventually got in there as a starter in that Louisville game and exploded. And then once he did that, they had to stick with him. But it definitely sounds like Rich Rod, with a competition going on between Nico Markle, the incumbent, and Jalen Henderson, and he'll say everybody, but it's really those two. He knows who's the starter now as we're speaking, but he hasn't announced it yet. We won't even know until kickoff of RMU. But it definitely seems like that whoever is that quote unquote backup is going to get in, going to get plays, going to get packages, going to get a couple series per game, not just against RMU or Ohio, but the brawl on and in big games, and going to be used and going to get some time to shine. Who knows if that's because there's a lot of talent with Henderson still, he wants to use him, or maybe it's an even competition and how he's gonna figure out how to use both of them. I don't think it'll be totally split, but he's hinted at a 2 quarterback system. How would that be to play under? What are your thoughts on that? Because it's happened to success in college football, but it's not as common today. And there are some that are concerned that could also make it difficult for Nico Markle, for example, that if he's a starter, he's having success, it's always a very tempo offense, and then he's pulled to give Jalen a play or two, that could actually lose some momentum. So where do you stand on a possible 2 quarterback system here under Rich Rod in 2025?
It really depends on the flow of the game and what type of rhythm you're getting into. And I feel like the negative of a 2 quarterback system is that, this guy 50% of the time is going to run the ball, or are you going to do a pass? So it's like you're giving, coaches do on percentages.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how defense is set up: third and short, second and long, yada yada yada. It is really just like what type of flow of the game is. Is that if Nico's in there, he's slinging the ball around, and it's third and short. You wish he would have ran it, but he didn't ran it because he wants to sling it. It's different, but we'll get a feel of it, and that's one of the things where Rich Rod's been doing for years. He understands it. He's going to put them in the right position. So that's the one thing I hope is that the situational terms come in is that Jalen comes in as if it's more of a running play, if it's a quarterback keep, to where it's just not so predictable to where teams are already lined up for it. To like, oh well, it's third and short, he's going to run it. So I mean,
yeah.
that's the thing to where it's like you gotta trust your ball coach at what.
Yeah, and he claims that it's not going to be predictable if he does that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Yeah, the concern is for West Virginia that it could be predictable, certainly if you do it multiple times and you're doing it from week one on, which is kind of what he teased. Steve Slaton here, Mountaineer Report, talking the 2025 Mountaineers days before kickoff of week 1. This is an interesting thought here, and people have asked Rich Rod a lot about his emotions. We just talked to him just yesterday as we're recording this, and he kind of almost, I'm right in front of him in those pressers. It almost looked like he was about to get emotional as well. Are you going to have any emotions? I know you're not going to be there for week 1, but just watching, even, trying to catch highlights or watching it on TV when you can, to see Rich Rod back. It's one thing during spring ball and know it's happening and being around and talking to Pat White and then having it be at fall camp. But once the season kicks off and he's on the sidelines and you see him there at the stadium on Mountaineer Field in a real game, is that going to bring back any emotions for Steve Slaton?
I don't think it'll bring any emotions. I feel like, say not happy, not sad, nothing like that. I'm very happy that he's back, but as being an athlete, being around, like this comes with the sport.
I know.
One
Yeah.
of those things. But for as a alumni West Virginia fan in all sports, I think to where we were and what fans think about a lot about those times to where I'm hopeful that it'll get to there. And I think that's what our winning heals all. So I think that's what our winning
100%.
our West Virginia base wants to win. So I feel like
Yeah.
if we get back to on course to where we were, where we should stay, where we feel we're at, I think to where, you know, that'll make me happy.
Yeah, and I think that's where most fans, former players, obviously the current staff and current players and current group, I think that's for sure the hope. That's for sure the hope. If we get Steve back here, Steve, I see you went away for a bit. Are you able to come back?
Uh,
Oh, there you go. There you go. You're with
yeah,
me now.
my high school parenting duties, high
Oh
school
no,
calling me.
no problem. I'll get you out of here soon. I know you. I know
No, real good.
you're dad number one before even a former Mountaineer and College Ball Hall of Famer for sure, and so am I. So I appreciate that. But as a dad number one, not a College Ball Hall of Famer, obviously. But yeah, I hear you. I mean, that is the hope for everybody for sure. But it'll be interesting if you do see any emotions there from Rich Rod. Now, before we fully get to your predictions and get you out of here, what's your biggest concern though? Because that's the hope that it's going to get back to what it was. And as you mentioned, even though there are people who are still in their feelings from the past, and there are some people that secretly don't want this to work because they just flat don't like Rich Rod, and they might
Mhm.
even be West Virginia fans that feel that way. If the program wins and Rich Rod wins, and certainly if he wins a Big 12 title, or even if he just wins on a regular basis or more, then everyone's going to come around and be happy. If he
Yeah.
loses, then it's going to be rough, and you're going to get some people that are happy now that are also going to turn around and say, "Nah, Rich Rod has been a while since Power Four success. Jack State wasn't enough. We're mad again." People will turn on him all over again, and if it's just kind of 6-6 every year, it'll probably be split. Some will be okay, some will be upset. So that's just the life. He knows that. Everyone knows that. But you have hope. But what's a concern that maybe this will not work? Because even the success he had at Jacksonville State, that was a lower level and easier schedule. It's been a while since he's done it at this level. What would be a concern that this maybe would be a 3-8 2001 type of year one, or this overall tenure is not going to be near what it was when you and Pat White were gashing everybody and you were a national contender every year?
Yeah. So, for me, I am a big Rich Rod fan just because of how my life turned out
Yeah.
football wise. So my biggest concern is that the kids that he gets in don't fully buy in, and I think to where buying in is going to be the best process for us to be successful. So that's my biggest concern is that the kids don't, hey, like we say back in the day, hold the rope and don't go do it out just for them because one of the things that I've learned is that you go between his lines, it's you only fighting for the 11 on your team on the field at that time.
Yeah.
And you gotta want it, and it can't be, oh man, my stats, I didn't get no good stats. It's gonna affect my nil money. It's hey, listen, we want to win. We want to leave a legacy. So that'll be my biggest concern. I don't have any, I guess big negatives to say against Rich
Yeah.
Rod's coaching style until we see a game to where if it's bad clock management, if it's putting somebody in or running a play, we'll get to that point when it comes. But my biggest concern would be the kids not buying in fully.
Yeah. And that's the part there, the actual coaching that I do think most are pretty confident in. It's almost like you predict the season, go game to game, and then maybe you give a win just for Rich Rod. That's kind of why people did, separate from everything else, want Rich Rod back. They feel like he's not going to have his team lose by 20 points in any given
Yeah,
game. That did happen in the last 6 years. If they lose, they're going to be putting effort in. It'll be a game that's not going to be, out of control. And he's not going to himself make a coaching blunder that loses a game. They're not going to blow a 10-point lead. Like, those are things that fans are figuring are not going to happen. I think everyone assumes they're not going to win every single game for 5 years, and there will be peaks and valleys, but they're going to assume that Rich Rod is not going to have that mental error or big mistake. But no one's perfect. It could happen, and then it'll be very interesting on how that will look for you guys. Or, I mean, if you have to send a text, hey, Rich, it might be time to join me in the College Football Hall of Fame. Maybe you're at the end of the line here. He's over 60 years old, but he definitely looks like and sounds like, and being around him now, that he is very much still into this thing. He still is very high energy. He is still living the hard edge life. I don't think any of those things are going to occur. You're going to have to send that text this year. We'll see how many years this goes, and also he understands the pressure. He is well aware this cannot be a 3-8 season like it was when he first started things back in 2001. Now, you gave it to me, but what is your prediction for this season? Again, Steve Slaton here joining me on Mountaineer Report as we are previewing the 2025 season for the Mountaineers. When we get Steve back again, at least on the video side, he should still be with me audio, if nothing else. No problem. Yeah. So just give me your prediction now. Give me your record prediction. What you think this team is going to do. I know you want to say just undefeated every year, but you're trying to actually give a prediction here. So put your analyst hat on and maybe take away that you're a legend who played under Rich Rod, and try to give me your prediction, your record prediction for this team this year. What do you think they're going to do?
You're speaking of Rich Rod and just his accountability to the team, him being fully immersed into this football thing still. I'm going to say 9-3. I'm always going to go on the high end, but 9-3 is to where I'm not sure if all the kids are still buying. That's always going to be my biggest concern. And it's to where there's teams that have had a way of football they've been playing to where the kids that style has been that style. That integrity is already built in when they come in and they get those integrity guys. So 9-3 is still my high hopes, but I think there's going to be some failure just because it's still early on.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they go 9-3, they're going to be a contender in the Big 12, and a lot of fans will certainly take that in year one and be very bought in for year two. Who knows if that will occur? You may not even have to do that for year one to be a success. I think if they get to a bowl game, a solid bowl game, and you win the brawl, then most fans probably will again be bought in and have some excitement going into year two. If they have that 3-4 win year that it was 20 plus years ago when he started things out at West Virginia, then some fans who are bought in now may leave. He may have more detractors. He'll get more hate, and it'll be maybe rough in the offseason for next year. And that's just the way it is. And he certainly knows that. And we talked before recording this show when you called me that early in the year, we're going to kind of know the mental fortitude of this team. You're going to win the RMU game. You have the brawl coming up in week 3. It's at home. It's on December 13th. We all know what happened then 18 years ago with the 13-9 game. But before that could be a trap game. They're going to Ohio in Athens, the biggest game those fans are going to see in a while and really have seen in a while. It'll be packed. It'll be wild there. The team might have to stay away from Athens because of the hotel situation. Again, it's on the road. They should have more talent, but that was a really good team out of the MAC a year ago, even though they're also changing coaches. They still have the same QB. Their coordinator moved up, so it's not like an entire new staff. It's not as much of an overhaul as West Virginia had to deal with, and that's going to be their Super Bowl. In a way, and they have a game against Ohio State, but they're never figuring to win that one. They maybe could try to catch the Mountaineers early in a season with a new coach. So if they go in there and win big, win convincingly, really just get a win and show their mental toughness and produce, and Jaheim White, etc., produces and likely not being able to hear anything. The quarterback's going to be dealing with a silent count all day. That'll show what they maybe can do. But if they go in there and drop the game, maybe win barely, or certainly if they lose, which is all in play right now, then maybe there's reason for concern. We're going to kind of know a lot early on with this team. So, Steve, I appreciate you jumping on here kind of last minute. Great to talk to you on this. Great to talk to you in our conversation off the air. We can't give the fans everything we discussed off the air, but it was enjoyable for me nonetheless. I'll be seeing you at some point here coming up. Maybe I'll try to go to the Hall of Fame induction as well and cover that. But if I don't get there, hope to be seeing you at that Colorado game, Colorado weekend, and maybe another future Mountaineer running back recruit legacy will happen with Andre Devine joining the squad. Noah Devine's son. Maybe there will be a Slaton on a jersey again. So we'll leave that as a possibility in the future. I know there's still some time.
He won't be on a gridiron. He'll be on the basketball court.
Yeah, I know he played football, right? So he's on the basketball. Well, that will still work if he wants to play for Ross Hodge. That can work.
He's playing football now, but his heart really in it like that.
Oh, okay.
But,
okay. I thought he played football. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, he plays now, but
okay.
He's not a fully invested in it, and which is fine. That's not football's not for everyone, and it's not something sports aren't there for everyone, and you don't have to push your kid to do something that they don't want to do. I feel like not a helicopter parent. I what my kid wants to do, I will support, but if you want extra help, you ask me, I'll do it, and then we can do it that way. But I'm not going to force you my way unless you ask for it.
Oh, I hear that. I hear that. I respect that. And I'm sure Ross Hodge will like to talk to your son at some point if he prefers basketball, and maybe he makes sense there. And that can definitely work for Ross Hodge runs a hard edge type of system as well. We're going to see how year one for him unfolds as well this fall. But Steve, again, I appreciate the time, and we talk to you soon.
Always a pleasure, brother.
And always a pleasure. Hopefully be able to see you here in a few months.
Yes, sir. Look forward to it. Thank you, God. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Steve Slaton, Super Steve, West Virginia Hall of Famer, WVU Sports Hall of Famer, coming up as a college football Hall of Famer, going to be inducted here after this upcoming regular season in December. He will be there at a game against Colorado this upcoming November to celebrate the 2005 Sugar Bowl team and his induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. That'll be a great week. Really, he's going to be there more than just the one day. If you want to try to run in to Super Steve, he'll have a lot on his plate, though. I'm sure. Hopefully, I can catch him with my coverage and everything he's going to have to be dealing with. I'm sure back in town, and we will know at that point how the season's going. So hopefully, it is a solid season for Steve to have everybody, feeling good about themselves and not have any toxic vibes for when he does return. Steve's going high. He always goes high. He's going to 9-3. I'm a little lower on it. I'll leave my prediction. We already did a whole show with Luke and I here. We went through the whole thing, but until we release the full media prediction here in the coming days. But a 9-3, everyone will take. We'll see. They got to start out strong. There's an opportunity for 3-0. There's an opportunity 3-0, and then that craters out. It is going to be a tough Big 12 schedule. They have some tough road games. At the end of the year, last two games against Arizona State, even at home, and then go at Arizona State and then Texas Tech. That's going to be something else. I mean, those last two games, doesn't matter where they're played, really. Those last two games against Arizona State and then Texas Tech to end the year could be brutal and could be back-to-back losses. So if they win a bowl game, if they win a solid year, they need to lock it up earlier than that. They need to win some conference games, of course, but they need to now take advantage of RMU, Ohio, and Pitt at home in comparison to some tougher out-of-conference schedules the last several years under Nino Brown, and we will really see what this team has in them against Ohio. They go in there and mop the floor with Ohio, a really good Group of 5 team on the road. That'll really show something. Really, in all reality, to be serious, they just need to win the freaking game. They could win it close, which is what I think actually will happen. They win it close. They can win it close, and that'll be fine. That's a tough place to play. That's no cakewalk. They beat Iowa State recently, actually. But they lose. That could be a trap before the brawl. They lose, and it doesn't affect conference standing. They could still get in the CFP if they win the Big 12. I get the era. But if they lose, that could really hurt the vibe. That could really make things rough right now. That could add the pressure, and that will garner some national coverage of unacceptable loss, etc., even in year one. Again, on the road at Ohio, we're going to find out a lot. Thanks again to Steve Slaton here for joining me. as we previewed the upcoming 2025 season. I wish I could give you everything that Steve and I talked about on the phone, but out of respect for Steve, we're not going to do that. There were some nuggets that were both why he's hopeful and also why he's concerned. But we'll see if those ever do come out and how this season unravels when that ball is finally kicked off. Mountaineer Report available everywhere you get your podcasts, of course, throughout the West Virginia Sports Now family of networks. That was Super Steve. I am Mike Asti, and the 2025 season is here.